They won't say it to your face. They'll joke, they'll advise, they'll go quiet when the conversation gets a little too real. But here's the truth. Authentic transformation makes people uncomfortable because it forces them to measure themselves against what they could be. A waking mind is a threat to the comfortable sleep of the room. When you start thinking differently, acting differently, asking questions instead of repeating answers, the ground under everyone else starts to shift. And nobody likes an earthquake in the living room. If this sounds familiar, if you've ever felt that strange tension when you outgrow the people around you, then you're in the right place. This channel is about building an unshakable inner world using depth psychology, philosophy, and the hard truths most people won't touch. Every week we go deeper into the ideas that actually transform lives, not just decorate them. If that's what you're here for, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. There's a pinned comment below with a guide to the entire series, and the description has resources that'll help you go even further. Now back to the question that brought you here. Build a mind so strong you'll scare people. That isn't a slogan. It's a diagnosis. A truly powerful mind is dangerous, not violent, but dangerous to the systems that keep everything low, mild, and obedient. Dangerous to the brittle identities that rely on approval. Dangerous most of all to the former self that begged for permission to breathe. When you decide to think for yourself, create your own values and abandon prepackaged truths, the room will try to shrink around that decision. Stay anyway. This path is lonely, hard, and inhumanly honest, but if your spine holds, it's the most transformative path available to a human being. Nietzsche understood something brutal and beautiful. The star is born from chaos. Comfort sells, but it doesn't forge. Cheap motivation is sugar. It spikes and fades. Positive affirmations without blood in them are just paint on rust. Real growth is sutured in the dark, when the map burns, when your knees give, when the only tool left is a pair of raw hands pulling a new self from the wreckage. Pain isn't a fetish. It's a tool. Hold it properly and it cuts away what is false. Hold it wrong and it cuts the hand. Think about the moments when you had no map, the breakup that pulled the floor out from under you, the failure that exposed every lie you told yourself, the night you realized nobody was coming to save you. Those weren't detours. Those were invitations. Chaos doesn't destroy you unless you have no center. Without an inner axis, the storm doesn't baptize, it drowns. So you have to build the anchor. 3 parts: principles that cannot be bought, daily discipline that doesn't ask how you feel, and deliberate solitude that trains the muscle of standing alone. With this anchor, the same waves that used to toss your body now carve your face into something unmistakable. With this anchor, the same nights that used to terrify you now become workshops for the spirit. Nietzsche called this the storm that births the dancing star. It's not poetic. It's architectural. You don't find yourself in comfort. You forge yourself in pressure. The chaos you're afraid of is the exact condition required to become someone unbreakable, but only if you hold the center. Only if you refuse to collapse into victimhood or blame or the seductive fantasy that someone else will do the work for you. Then comes the cut that cannot be undone. God is dead, not a celebration, a warning. Nietzsche wasn't mocking faith. He was diagnosing the collapse of the comforting idea that there's a superintendent of meaning who will tidy the mess and stamp your life with approval. No more outsourcing responsibility. No more absolution issued from above. It's not commandments now, it's creation. Not obedience, but self-overcoming. Freedom without training wheels. It's heavier than it looks. It lands in the stomach. But if you don't flinch, something ancient in your chest wakes up, a fire that says decide. Think for yourself. Feel for yourself. Do it because it's worthy, not because it's allowed. This is where most people retreat, because the moment you accept that no one is coming, that no higher authority will validate your choices, that meaning is something you have to create rather than discover, the weight becomes unbearable. But if you can hold it, if you can stand under that weight without buckling, you become something rare. You become sovereign. You stop asking for permission. You stop waiting for the world to tell you who you are. You decide. Everything changes when the question changes. Not is this permitted, but is this worthy of me? Ask that once and it's a nice line. Ask it at breakfast, at lunch, before bed, around money, time, love, work, and your life rearranges itself around the answer. Some bridges burn. Some doors close. A spine appears. Your mind stops bargaining and starts building. Call it the Übermensch if the word helps. Not a comic book power, not a halo, not a costume. It's architecture, interior law written in a hand that has stopped shaking. You don't adapt to the world. You impose meaning on it. You don't beg for comfort. You hunt for greatness. You don't ask to be tolerated. You choose to be undeniable. That shift is thermonuclear. It doesn't make you cruel, it makes you clear. Clear people scare rooms full of fog. If you're still here, if this is landing, take a second and like this video. It helps more people find it, and it tells me you want more of this kind of depth. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. This isn't surface-level content. We're building something here. The price of this clarity is steep. You have to kill the part of you that clings to applause. Vary the habit of asking for a round of claps before you take a step. Learn to walk without a crowd. Identity is built in the dark, with no audience and no guarantees. Almost everyone retreats. That's why almost no one becomes unbreakable. The ones who keep going learn the geometry of silence. They learn to be warmed by an internal fire when the weather outside goes cold. Solitude is not a punishment here. It's the right. No applause, no guide, only the raw company of everything that still needs to be faced. Doubts like vultures, old traumas eager to be fed, the periodic desire to quit and crawl back into the easy lie. Stay. That is the test. That is where possession of self becomes real, not theoretical. It is expensive. It is worth it. The rarest victory available to a human being is to be owned by no one, including the former self. If you can't bear the loneliness, you're not ready to hold the freedom. All real freedom requires abandonment, emotional crutches, comfortable illusions, relationships that survive only as long as you remain small. Nietzsche knew that becoming the Übermensch requires a descent before the ascent. You have to face the abyss. You have to stare into the void and let it stare back. Most people turn away. They distract themselves, medicate themselves, surround themselves with noise so they never have to be alone with the truth. But the ones who stay, who sit in the silence and let it strip them down to bone, those are the ones who come back rebuilt. Not repaired, rebuilt from the ground up, with materials that don't break under pressure. Sooner or later, the crowd notices. This isn't the tyrant from above. This is the pressure from the sides. Collective mediocrity is a velvet rope pulled across the throat. It governs by consensus and shame. It will rename your strengths until they sound like sins. Strength becomes arrogance. Ambition becomes selfishness. Independence becomes coldness. Not out of compassion, but resentment. Your brilliance exposes how ordinary life has become. The crowd survives by keeping everything level, so the head that rises must be pushed down. Expect the methods to be subtle, the look that says, "Who do you think you are?" The silence that edits out the truth mid-sentence. The faux concern that tells you to be realistic. Expect the mass to win by numbers, not by arguments. Expect to be called difficult, strange, arrogant. Expect the invitation to shrink. Decline it. Being different isn't a costume. It's the friction the world needs to generate heat enough to melt an old mold. Accept being the friction. Be the door no one can open without a little burn on the hand. This is the moment to share this video. If someone you know is going through this, if they're being pressured to stay small, send it to them. Sometimes the right idea at the right time changes everything. And comment below, what's the most subtle way you've been told to shrink? Let's name it. Let's make it visible. There's a cost schedule. It will charge you friendships that survive only at shallow depth. It will charge you opportunities that require a bowed head. It will charge you the talent for being satisfied with too little. Pay it, the receipts arrive in other currencies. Integrity that doesn't wobble. Clarity that cuts through fog in 3 words. Presence that says more by absence than most say by showing up. None of it is bought outside. None of it is memorized from platitudes. It is mined. Nights where the ceiling won't answer back. Days where the only victory is the smallest right thing done on time. It is the result of a war without an end date between who you were and who you are becoming. The strongest aren't the ones who have already won. They're the ones who keep going, when winning would have been a decent excuse to stop. They don't wear victory. They work it like a muscle so it doesn't atrophy. Their minds are feared because their yes is heavy and their no is final. Because they don't bend for weather, because their center doesn't shake when the room does. Think of it like a tree in a storm. The tree doesn't survive because it's rigid. It survives because it has roots so deep that the wind, no matter how violent, can't pull it out of the ground. That's what you're building. Not a mind that never bends, but a mind that bends without breaking because it's rooted in something the world can't touch. That's the dancing star born from chaos. That's the Übermensch. Not invincible, but unbreakable. If this is landing, if you feel that shift inside, turn it from feeling into form. Write in public one truth you've been hiding. An opinion that scares your mouth. A thought that isolates you but represents what's real. Claim your voice. Sign your presence. Make a vow out loud that the bending has ended. Then keep going. The next chapter matters as much as this one, maybe more. The sensation of being alone is the optics of being ahead. It's frightening. It's also freedom. Let's make this concrete. Here's the micro action. Today, before you go to bed, write down one area of your life where you've been asking for permission instead of making a decision. Just one. Maybe it's a career move you've been waiting for someone to validate. Maybe it's a relationship you've been too scared to end. Maybe it's a boundary you've been too polite to set. Write it down. Then ask yourself, is this worthy of me? Don't answer quickly. Sit with it. Let the question do its work. If the answer is no, decide what changes tomorrow. Not next week, tomorrow. One action, one step. That's how the Übermensch is built. Not in a single dramatic moment, but in 1,000 small decisions that accumulate into a life that can't be bent. The second part of the action is harder. Identify one person or one environment that consistently makes you feel like you need to shrink. Not because they're evil, but because the relationship only works if you stay small. Write their name down. Then decide, am I willing to pay the cost of staying here? Because that cost is real. It's your clarity. It's your time. It's the slow erosion of the part of you that could become something undeniable. If the cost is too high, start creating distance. Not with drama. Not with announcements. Just with consistency. Spend less time there. Invest more energy somewhere else. Let the relationship find its true size. If it can't survive your growth, it was never built to hold you in the first place. The third part, commit to 1 hour of solitude this week. No phone, no music, no distractions. Just you and the silence. Sit with whatever comes up, doubts, fears. The voice that says you're not enough. Don't fight it. Don't fix it. Just observe it. Let it speak. Write it down if that helps. The goal isn't to feel better. The goal is to stop being afraid of what's inside. Because the moment you stop running from your own mind, the moment you can sit in that silence without flinching, you become dangerous. Not to other people, to the systems that rely on your obedience, to the version of yourself that needed external validation to feel real. This is what Nietzsche meant by self-overcoming. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming honest. Honest about what you want. Honest about what you're willing to sacrifice. Honest about the gap between who you are and who you're pretending to be. That honesty is the chisel. It's what carves away everything that doesn't belong. And what's left after all that cutting is the thing no one can take from you. The thing that doesn't need applause or approval or validation. The thing that simply is. If you made it this far, you're not here by accident. Most people would have clicked away 10 minutes ago. The fact that you're still here means something. It means you're ready. Or at least you're willing to try. That's enough. Save this video to a playlist. Come back to it when the pressure mounts, when the crowd gets loud, when you start to doubt whether this path is worth it. It is, I promise you it is. An unshakable mind is not a title. It's a texture. It's the grain left in the wood after the planer removes what doesn't belong. It's the rhythm of a day organized by dignity instead of permission. It's the habit of asking the right question relentlessly. Is this worthy of me? It's the readiness to pay the price now and collect the reward in a currency no one can steal later. Build that patiently and viciously. Then watch what happens to rooms built for smaller people. This is the work. This is the path. It's not gentle. It's not easy, but it's the only one that leads to a life you don't have to apologize for. A life where your yes means something because your no is unshakable. A life where you don't bend for weather, where your center holds no matter what the room does. Build a mind so strong you'll scare people, not because you want to intimidate them, but because clarity is terrifying to those who've built their lives on compromise. Be the earthquake. Be the friction. Be the fire that refuses to go out. The next video goes even deeper into the psychology of self-overcoming. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it, and check the pinned comment below. There's a roadmap there that'll take you through the entire framework, step by step. This isn't a one-time thing. This is a practice, a discipline, a way of life. Let's build it together. Now let's go deeper, because what we've talked about so far is the external battlefield, the crowd, the pressure, the systems that want to keep you small. But there's an internal war that's even more brutal, and Nietzsche knew it. Jung named it. It's the war with your own shadow. The part of you that doesn't want to change. The part that's comfortable with mediocrity, because mediocrity is safe. The part that whispers every single morning that staying small is easier than becoming great. That voice isn't your enemy, it's your inheritance. It's every compromise your ancestors made to survive. Every time they bent to avoid breaking, every time they swallowed their truth to keep the peace, that survival strategy is written into your nervous system. It kept them alive, but it will keep you caged. Here's what most people don't understand about the shadow. It's not just the bad parts of you, it's everything you've been taught to hide. Your anger, your ambition, your desire to be seen, your refusal to settle, all the parts that didn't fit into the shape your family needed you to be, the shape your culture required, the shape that kept you loved and safe. You buried those parts, not because you wanted to, but because you had to. And now they're down there, in the basement of your psyche, running programs you can't see, making you sabotage yourself right when success is within reach, making you pick fights that don't matter, making you shrink in rooms where you should be expanding. That's the shadow. And until you face it, until you drag it into the light and integrate it, you'll never be whole. You'll always be at war with yourself. And a divided house cannot stand. Jung called this process individuation. It's the work of becoming a self. Not the self your parents wanted, not the self your culture approved. The self that was always there, buried under layers of performance and fear. Individuation is the most difficult work a human being can undertake because it requires you to stop pretending, to stop performing, to stop trying to be acceptable, and start trying to be real. That transition is violent. It feels like dying, because in a very real sense you are dying. The false self, the one you built to survive, has to be dismantled, and every defense mechanism you've relied on will fight to keep it intact. Expect resistance. Expect sabotage. Expect the voice that says, "Who do you think you are?" Expect it to come from inside your own head, in your own voice, using your own fears against you. But here's the secret. That voice has no power unless you believe it. It's a recording, a script handed down from people who were too afraid to become themselves. It's not prophecy. It's not truth. It's just noise. And the moment you stop listening, the moment you choose to act in alignment with your deepest values instead of your deepest fears, that voice starts to fade. Not all at once. It'll come back. It'll try again. But each time you choose yourself, each time you make the decision that serves your growth instead of your comfort, you weaken its grip. And eventually, it becomes background noise, a mosquito buzzing near your ear. Annoying but harmless. Let's return to the tree in the storm. That metaphor isn't finished, because the tree doesn't just survive the storm. The storm changes the tree. Every time the wind tests the trunk, the tree responds by growing thicker roots, deeper roots. The pressure doesn't break it. The pressure makes it stronger. That's what chaos does to a mind that refuses to collapse. It doesn't destroy you, it forges you. But only if you stay rooted, only if you refuse to be pulled out of the ground by the noise, the doubt, the fear, the pressure to conform. The roots are your principles, the things you will not compromise on, the lines you will not cross, the truth you will not abandon no matter who it costs you. Write them down, name them, make them non-negotiable. Because when the storm comes, and it will come, those roots are the only thing that will keep you standing. Now let's talk about what happens when you actually start to change. When you stop asking for permission and start making decisions. When you stop shrinking and start expanding. When you stop performing and start being. The first thing that happens is loneliness. Not the loneliness of being alone, but the loneliness of being misunderstood. Your old friends won't recognize you. Your family will ask what's wrong. Your co-workers will stop inviting you to things because the version of you they knew, the one they were comfortable with, is gone. And the new version makes them uncomfortable. Not because you're doing anything to them, but because your presence is a mirror. It shows them what they could be if they had the courage to change. And most people would rather resent the mirror than look into it. This is where most people turn back. They feel the isolation and they panic. They think something's wrong with them. They think they've made a mistake. So they shrink again. They apologize for growing. They dim their light so other people feel comfortable. Don't. The loneliness is temporary. The compromise is permanent. If you stay the course, if you keep choosing growth over comfort, eventually you'll find your people. Not the people who need you to stay small, but the people who celebrate your expansion. Not the people who are threatened by your clarity, but the people who are inspired by it. Those people exist, but you won't find them by staying where you are. You'll find them by becoming who you're meant to be, and trusting that the right people will recognize you when you get there. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of the relationships in your life right now are transactional. They're based on a silent contract. I'll stay this size if you stay that size. I won't challenge you if you don't challenge me. I won't grow if you don't grow. It's comfortable. It's stable. It's also a cage. The moment you start to outgrow that contract, the relationship either evolves or it ends. And that's okay. Not every relationship is meant to last forever. Some people are in your life for a season, not a lifetime. They served a purpose. They helped you become who you are. But they can't walk with you where you're going. Let them go. Grieve if you need to, but let them go. Clinging to relationships that require you to stay small is self-betrayal. And self-betrayal is the worst kind of violence you can commit. If you're feeling this, if this is touching something deep, hit the like button. It helps this message reach people who need it. And drop a comment. What relationship are you holding on to that's keeping you small? Let's talk about it. Sometimes naming it is the first step to releasing it. Now let's make this even more practical, because philosophy is beautiful, but it's useless if it doesn't change how you live. Here's a framework for building the unshakable mind. It has 3 layers: clarity, discipline, and sovereignty. Clarity is knowing what you want, not what you're supposed to want, not what would make other people happy, what you actually want. Most people never get here because they're too busy performing. They're so focused on being acceptable that they never stop to ask what would make them feel alive. So start there. Sit down with a blank page and write this question at the top. If no one was watching, if no one would judge me, if I couldn't fail, what would I do? Don't edit. Don't filter. Just write. Let it be messy. Let it be scary. Let it be true. That's clarity. Discipline is doing the work even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. Because feelings are weather. They change, they pass. If you wait until you feel motivated, you'll wait forever. Discipline is the bridge between clarity and reality. It's the daily practice of choosing your values over your impulses. It's getting up when the alarm goes off. It's doing the work when it's hard. It's saying no to the easy thing because you're committed to the worthy thing. Discipline isn't sexy. It's not inspiring. It's just repetition. Small choices made consistently over time. That's how the unshakable mind is built. Not in a moment of revelation, but in 1,000 moments of choice. Sovereignty is the crown. It's the refusal to be owned by anyone or anything. Not by approval, not by fear, not by comfort, not by the past. Sovereignty means you answer to yourself. You create your own meaning. You define your own success. You decide what's worthy and what's not. And once you have that, once you've built clarity and discipline and sovereignty, nothing can touch you. Not criticism, not rejection, not failure, because your center is yours. It doesn't depend on external validation. It doesn't wobble when the room does. It holds. That's the goal. That's the target. That's what it means to build a mind so strong you'll scare people. The final piece is this: legacy. Not the kind of legacy that gets written in history books. The quiet kind. The kind that lives in the people whose lives you touch. The decisions you make, the standards you hold, the example you set by refusing to settle. That's the legacy of the Übermensch. It's not loud. It's not flashy. It's just undeniable. People feel it when they're around you. They don't always know what it is, but they feel the difference. The solidity, the clarity, the refusal to bend. That's what you're building. Not a performance, but a presence. Not a mask, but a face that's been carved by pressure and polished by discipline. A face that doesn't need approval because it knows its own worth. So here's the final action. 3 commitments. Make them now. 1. I will stop asking for permission. 2. I will stop shrinking to make others comfortable. 3. I will build my life around what is worthy, not what is easy. Write those down, say them out loud, make them real. Then live them, every single day. When the moment comes to choose between comfort and growth, choose growth. When the moment comes to choose between approval and integrity, choose integrity. When the moment comes to choose between the crowd and yourself, choose yourself. Every single time. Without apology. Without hesitation. That's the path. That's the work. That's how you build a mind so strong you'll scare people. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Save it, come back to it. Let it be a reminder that the path is hard, but it's worth it. The next video is already waiting. Let's keep building, because here's what no one tells you about the journey. It gets harder before it gets easier. The first year of real change is brutal. You're learning to walk in a new body, think with a new mind, speak with a new voice. Everything feels awkward. Everything feels exposed. The old patterns scream for attention. The old comfort zones send invitations every single day. Come back, it was easier here. You didn't have to try so hard. You didn't have to be alone. And some days, you'll be tempted. Some days you'll wonder if it was worth it. If maybe the crowd was right. If maybe you should have stayed quiet, stayed small, stayed safe. Those days are the test. Those days are where the Übermensch is actually forged. Not in the moments of clarity, but in the moments of doubt. Not when the path is obvious, but when it's dark and you can't see 2 steps ahead. That's when you find out what you're made of. That's when discipline stops being a concept and becomes a lifeline. You don't need motivation on those days. You need commitment. You need the promise you made to yourself when the vision was clear. You need the roots you planted when the ground was solid. Because now the storm is here, and the only thing keeping you upright is the work you did before it arrived. Let the tree metaphor finish here. After the storm passes, after the wind dies down and the sky clears, the tree doesn't look the same. It's taller, it's thicker, its branches reach further, its roots go deeper. The storm didn't weaken it. The storm made it capable of holding more weight, more fruit, more life. That's what happens to you when you refuse to collapse. When you hold your center through the chaos. When you choose growth over comfort, integrity over approval, sovereignty over safety. You don't just survive. You become something that couldn't have existed without the pressure. You become undeniable. And here's the gift no one talks about. Once you've done it once you've survived the storm and come out stronger, you stop being afraid of storms. You start to see them differently. Not as threats, but as opportunities. Not as punishments, but as invitations. The next time the ground shakes, the next time the room tries to shrink you, the next time someone tells you to be realistic, you'll smile. Because you've been here before. You know what this is. It's just another storm. And storms don't scare trees with deep roots.